All righty. Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our Pirates Path Career Lessons Learned. I am your host today, Scott Francis, the president of the ECU Alumni Association. We're so glad you've joined us wherever and however you are joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Hope everybody is staying safe and healthy and sane and well. Pirates Path program is a series of conversations with cool pirates with cool jobs and interesting career stories and paths to where they are today. Part of the nature and the joy we derive from alumni work is giving pirates out there the opportunity to reflect on their student days and their journey to where they are now. So while we're capturing that here, there's also the opportunity for recent grads and current students to learn from the journey and stories. The Pirates Path seeks to bring you all alumni with very impressive backgrounds and experience, and I'm looking forward to you all, sharing that with you all and with Pirates nationwide. Our hope is that hearing these great stories, you'll glean some interesting strategies or tales of overcoming adversity that you can apply to your journey as well. We're happy to be joined today by a great pirate and great friend, Dr. Karla Jones. As we get started, some quick ground rules and format info for you. First, we are recording this session, so our friends who couldn't be here can access it later. So please note that it will record both our screens and the chats. We've muted all your lines on entry as we meet our featured guest, Karla. And for optimal viewing, you should select the speaker view, which you can find on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Also, we ask that you keep those lines muted for the duration of the program. And we'll get started by asking Karla some questions, but at any time you can ask a question in the chat by clicking on the word bubble labeled chat in the user menu at the bottom of your screen, right around there. Thankful in advance for your patience and understanding as we navigate the ins and outs of the technology. So once again, thank you. And one more thing before we kick off, is there a poll? There's a poll today, I believe. We wanted to quickly check in and see if our attendees had updated their contact info with us, if you're on the ECU Connect platform, and about other events you might be interested in. So that poll is right there. And we'll give you a second to answer that before we dive in. Okay. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Dr. Karla Jones. Dr. Jones is an assistant professor of sport management at Queen's University of Charlotte. In addition, she serves as an adjunct professor. Oh, whoa. There we go. She also serves as an adjunct professor at Johnson C. Smith University, Grand Canyon University, and North Carolina A&T State University. She presents at national and regional sport management conferences and is actively conducting research within the field. Dr. Jones reflects on the phrase, a jack of all trades and a master of none. A lot of different fields, trades, and occupations piqued her interest from a young age through adulthood. She's shared with us that she could be good at all of them. However, everything would always come back to full circle back to her passion for sports, and she wanted to be the master of her trade. Karla, thanks for joining us for Pirates Path with ECU Alumni.
Thank you for having me. And it looks like I lost sports medicine building. Oh, well.
We give you a second to get it, to rebuild it if you need it.
Yeah, something must have happened. Must have got torn down. So, but all right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And the best place for us to start, as we've been starting with everybody, where were you on March 15th? How have you been since then?
On March 15th, I was actually volunteering, and I remember it well. I was volunteering for the American Heart Association. They were trying to do a healthy church challenge. And I was in the middle of a session when the messages started coming out, like everything was shutting down. And, you know, in this event, in that event, don't show up to work on Mondays. That's actually was in the middle of a session. So I'm standing up there in front of the members that were there, like, I think I'm supposed to go home now, everybody. So since then, been great. As I was telling Mary earlier, used to teaching online and working remotely. Therefore, it's been great. Was worried about the students because at Queens, we have a lot of international students. And I had one, he was in Japan, so he couldn't join live at 12 p.m. because it was 1 a.m. there. Queens was flexible with them and they let him switch to the 8 a.m. class. So that was the only thing. Other than that, they've been doing surprisingly well. I haven't had no major issues. So adjusting easily went better because they were able to adjust easily.
Excellent. Excellent. And we'll talk about how you got to Queens, but first I want to go back to your origin story. Now you live and work in the greater Charlotte area right now, but where would you call home? If somebody said, what's your hometown? Where's home for you?
So my favorite thing to do when I say this, I usually use the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So I say in West Fayetteville, born and raised in Ponderosa is where I spent most of my days. So I am from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I mainly grew up on one side of town, then moved to a completely different side of town, ended up graduating from Pine Forest High School. They also always say that people in Charlotte are transplants, but Fayetteville people are transplants. We're mostly transplants because of the military. My family is there because my grandfather served in the Korean War. Therefore, we were there. And if he hadn't went to the Korean War, I would be a resident of Dothan, Clio, Clayton, Alabama. Very country out there. So glad he came up here. And, you know, Fayetteville, we have Pope Air Force Base, Fort Bragg. It's not a big city, but we're trying. We have expressways now and different things like that. Growing up there was awesome because back then, I think we only had 8 high schools. I believe they have more now. And we always came together if it was team rec center gatherings or athletics. We are very, very competitive in Fayetteville in athletics. I mean, very competitive. Like if there was anyone on the line now and I said I went to the Pine Forest, they didn't go to Pine Forest, they would be rolling their eyes and counting the different times that they beat us. And I pick and choose my battles because I know we weren't the best at football. My senior year homecoming, we lost 0-35. But I love growing up there. You know, home of HBCU, Fayetteville State University, the Broncos. I always say I'm also an honorary Bronco because I got 3 credit hours from there. You know, so I represent the Broncos.
Nice.
Yeah, and other than that, that's that.
Excellent. So I have spent more than a handful of Thanksgivings in Dothan, Alabama.
So you're familiar.
I'm familiar with the booming metropolis of Dothan.
And you follow that whole, yeah.
Yes. My aunt and her husband, former military, both live there, and so they always want us to come through. So we've made the effort to go through when we were living down in Florida. So growing up, I knew a handful of kids who knew exactly what they wanted to do with their lives. Was that you? Do you remember what you wanted to do from a very young age?
Nope, I did not. And, you know, I'm always amazed when people do say that. I was like, I wish I was that kid. I wanted to do everything, basically. Therefore, I didn't pinpoint anything. And then when you get to high school, they start trying to get you acclimated to certain things. So I was in all of the class. I was in home economics. I was in the health occupation classes. I was in FBLA. And so, as you can see, had no idea, but I liked it all. Around sometime in high school, one of my friends, her name was Tamika, she started talking about physical therapy and going to ECU to be a physical therapist. And I was like, I've never thought about physical therapy. But as we went through that last year, the health occupation courses, I was like, I think I really like this. I even still remember some of the medical terminology, but I'll spare y'all that today. So my mom said I could apply to one school. And I was like, somebody mentioned ECU physical therapy. So maybe my mom had faith that I was just going to get in off of that one school, applied to one, got in, the rest is history. So no, I did not just want to do everything.
Excellent. So was that your first exposure to ECU? Was somebody kind of mentioning it?
Yep. Didn't know much about it because in my hometown, about it was either Fayetteville State, North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, Chapel Hill, and not too much NC State. And to be honest, I didn't even know, like growing up, that UNC Pembroke was close by until we went to, I think we visit there for chorus a long time ago.
Excellent.
Didn't know much.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
As you applied and enrolled and kind of you show up to campus, did you envision what you'd be doing after graduate? So I went to school as a criminal justice major, and I thought, you know, the day I walked on campus, I'm going to graduate and be a part of the the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau. That was the vision I had when I was going to come out. Did you have a kind of, all right, I'm going here, and this is what I'm going to do when I leave?
Sure did. And so the word for this segment is brought to you by the word pivot. So I got to ECU, and for those that went to ECU, that science department is tough. So I was supposed to major in biology in order to go into physical therapy. And those biology classes, they got me in the beginning. And I started rethinking my life. So what else do I want to do? So I knew that I could go into exercise sports science or exercise physiology and still go into the PT program. Therefore, I took that route. Ended up deciding on exercise, sports science, health and fitness specialist because it more aligned with what I was passionate for. Therefore, I went, you know, we had to do the internships. I interned at some athletic facility down the street. And I loved the programming, loved everything I did. But as I interned, which is a great thing, as I interned, I realized that wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. It was great, you know, to do for a small period of time, but not forever, you know, doing programming at a facility. So that summer, I, you know, tried to figure out life again. The goal then was to go to UNC Greensboro for a master's in exercise physiology. And I got to Greensboro, then I realized I want to go back to ECU. So I went all the way back to ECU, and by doing research and exploring what ECU had, I learned that there was a new degree program that had just started up for athletic administration. I started researching it. One of my friends was in that master's degree program. That's when I feel like the true light bulb went off. I was like, I love everything about athletics and sports. And I didn't know that, but I should have known because just to rewind a little bit, in Toastmasters, I always do this speech about how I'm the wannabe athlete. I'm average at everything. Am I going to be your superstar? No. Will I help you get a win? Yes. And I love watching sports, always been around sports. My family, on my mom's side, everybody was in athletics, whether it was softball, cheerleading, volleyball, basketball. And every time we got together, that's all we did. And, you know, didn't realize that was what was being instilled in me. And once I figured that out, I was like, I want to be on the business side of sports since, you know, I wasn't going to be an athlete. So did that, ended up being the best decision I made, landed an internship within the athletic department with the athletic director's office. And I wish I remembered the admin's name at that time, but I worked closely with her. I was responsible for creating a new database for all of ECU's awards and trophies and recognitions. And people have no idea how successful ECU has been in athletics. I didn't even know until I walked into that room. It was crazy. And it's not just football, it was all sports. And at that time as well, I landed a position with ECU Sports Marketing. And being able to be there and see all you have to do on game days and what you do during the games in sports. I think the toughest sport for me, though, was baseball. That was pretty long and it got pretty hot. But I got to see all of it. So I even tell my students as we're going through the sport management courses, if you're getting into this industry wanting to work a 9 to 5, that's not the case. I was glad I got those experience because I realized that I could show up to a football game at 8 a.m. and not leave that facility until 7, 8 p.m. that night. And people don't realize that. Great experience with that. But I always knew that's what I wanted to do. And I'm not sure, well, he's still there. Carla Crumpler is still at ECU. He's one of my mentors, and the former track coach, Matt Munson. So I relied on them heavily to get, more insight on what I should do or shouldn't do. And Crumpler actually helped me land an internship with the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte. Unfortunately, the guy ended up getting laid off. I can't remember. And so with him went my position. Therefore, I had to pivot again. I relied back on my bachelor's degree and went back in there, became assistant manager of a facility, and was like, let's try this again. And I'm like, no, I'm still not where I want to be. And, at that point, we do have to make decisions on how we're going to, pay our bills and things of that nature. Therefore, I went ahead and landed a position at Wachovia in their department. After 3 years, I realized that after applying for positions in the sports industry for 3 years, I realized perhaps I won't be able to break into it and become a commissioner. That was one of my goals. I could actually help people secure those opportunities. Therefore, I decided to work on my doctorate degree in sport management and become a professor. And my main goal now is to help students get opportunities, whether it's internships, jobs, and teach them everything that they need to know. This semester in particular, just to point out as I wrap up, my intro classes had around 20 guest speakers from various parts of the sports industry. Their eyes are now wide open to all that the sports industry has to offer. It's bigger than just the NBA, the NFL, NHL. There's a lot more out there for them. So even though my journey didn't start off me getting into where I wanted to be, I feel like it came full circle, and I'm more than likely where I'm supposed to be. Because if I was in the industry, working in one department, not sure how many, people I could help within a particular position.
Right. And my eyes were opened years ago once I started making friends with people who worked within sports, but not the athletic director, but marketing and promotions for basketball. And like every time out, every break in the action, there's so much going on. Like I to the typical bystander, they never realize this. So that's a really cool experience to kind of open your eyes to that. I think earlier this year we got to sit down with Eric Ward, who runs kind of the football operations pieces, and saw his little cheat sheet, and it just blew my mind, all of the detail that goes into that. So really cool experience. So as a sports fan, were you able to actually enjoy some of the sports? Did you have a typical football Saturday, or was your internship kind of part of that? Was Saturday work for you?
So funny you say that. Saturdays was interesting. We would probably get there 4 or 5 hours before even, kickoff or anything. And we would be just making sure everything is set up. What I will say about these events, the pre-planning, those people should be awarded for all the pre-planning that goes into it. So we're there, we're setting up. The players are out there trying to warm up because, they warm up, do a little bit, then they go back off. But we spent most of the time getting set up, working around them, and running through everything we had to do. And then we had to make sure that we recovered in all areas. And that ranged from not only inside the stadium, but we will also go and check around to some of the tents that were being set up for like the Chancellor. And that used to be a big event. I'm not sure if they still do the huge Chancellor tailgates, but we used to, make sure we had all that taken care of. The worst thing could be though, if we had a football game and a basketball game on the same day. That's when things got really interesting, and we would have to pivot quick. So typical game day, I was there, we'd be down there watching it. It's different being on the sidelines. I mean, you don't have that aerial view down. You're kind of like there. So if someone gets hit in front of you, you feel like you're in the action. So I don't think there possibly could be a better experience than being actually on the sideline. We're still working, but we would have to wait for timeouts. We were responsible for bringing the people out that were going on the field, or if we were supposed to be down there to help out with announcements, or even PD, trying to figure out where he's running around to. But got to see a lot. I will say the internship was that, but also I'll probably get into this later as well. Worked for the Charlotte Bobcats doing security, and me and an old colleague actually talked about that. Typically you're not supposed to stand there and watch the games. That's the ultimate no-no.
Yes.
And the only times where it felt like time stood still and you're actually looking at stuff was when we went to like double overtime or triple overtime. I want to say we had a game against the Lakers a long time ago that went into triple overtime. We thought we was never going home, but at that point, the whole building is standing still. So I would say that would be the main time you can only actually sit there and watch a particular, event if it's just being drug on for a long time.
Excellent. And so embarking on this journey is not easy, and it doesn't just kind of happen. Who were some of your most influential people in your student experience, either other students or administrators?
As mentioned, a lot of my friends ran track and field. Therefore, I got to know their coach very well, and that was Matt Munson. I still keep in contact with him today. I call him coach, even though I can't run. I always tell this story too. I was playing softball. I think it was in the 12th grade for a community league. And I hit the ball and I started running to first base, and somebody was like, "Is she running in slow motion?" And therefore I was like, this athletic thing is not working out for me. But all my friends, even my best friend, she ran track at ECU. So he was cool. And, I could just pop in his office and, ask him any questions. And, I would volunteer when they had pirate relays at ECU. And then hands down at ECU, I have to give the primary award to Karla. I tell my best friend every time she sees him, make sure you tell him I said hi. I will forever be grateful to him for his advice. For those that don't know him, he's in the academic advisor in the athletics department, and he's been there for a while. He's actually also a star football player at East Carolina. And yes, I probably wouldn't have, got the positions and stuff that I got without his advice or his knowledge. And for individual students or people even looking to change careers, you got to have those people. You got to have a Karla. You might think you know everything you're doing, and you might think your aunt, your cousin, or someone that you've known for 30 years is that person. Typically, those won't be the mentors that are going to actually help you. And what I will say about him also is you got to have someone that you're confident that is going to speak on your behalf when you're not there. And I was confident that if I said, can you speak to this person for me, that he was going to do such a good job that it would make things easier on my end. And that's kind of how I landed the internship with the Carolina Panthers, by him making a call on my behalf.
Awesome.
And one more person, I cannot forget, Lynn Harley. She used to be over in the student union department. She gave me my first job, one of my first jobs at ECU at the movie theater. She was my boss. And then I want to say my sophomore year, I was promoted to supervisor. And even when my senior year, when I was working on I had to do the essay prep for exit exams. That was that was hard. And she would let me come to work and, actually sit, because I ended up doing a graduate assistantship with her as well. She let me study for that exam. That I'll forever be grateful for that. During my time when I thought I was going to UNCG, I quit working at the rec center. I mean, not the rec center, the student center. When I came back to grad school at ECU, she gave me my old job back as a supervisor in the movie theater. And also I was chair of the special projects committee in student union. So throughout my 6 years, undergrad and grad there, she was always a part of it. And we're Facebook friends, so I still see her. I don't think she's any longer at ECU though, but I still speak to her. She was actually at my 40 under 40 banquet as well.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Okay, so we're going to go back in time a little bit. And it's Friday, March 10th-ish of your senior year. And people are starting, it's the Friday before spring break. People are starting to ask, what are you doing next year? Do you have an answer? Did you have an answer? At that point, did you have your plan all laid out about what was next? Did that question make you sweat, or did that question make you smile?
This is undergrad?
Yes.
So all I knew in March of 2000 is that I wasn't ready to work full time. I want to say it was Pulse Athletic Club. It was off of Charles Boulevard, I think. I don't know. But I was working, that time I was at Pulse Athletic Club, and me and the other interns were basically running the show. We ran that whole building. And yeah, so we were doing about 40 hours a week. So that's the main thing I knew. I knew I was going to graduate school. I knew I was not going into the workforce, just wasn't ready. And in Greenville, this is for those still in Greenville, back in the day, I think my rent was only around $280 a month. And, you could get, your student financial aid and Pell Grants and things of that nature. So everything was covered. And so the part-time jobs I had, I could live off of without having a full-time job. So yeah, I knew I was going to grad school probably before March, but still the deal. Now, did I know where I was going to grad school that March? No, I actually had to come that summer and meet with the dean and talk to him about applying late to get into the program and, things of that nature. Coincidentally, I actually saw him at a conference in Arizona. So you probably don't remember me from little years ago, but thank you for letting me into grad school. that was coincidentally my old chair.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to grad school, and then fast forward that 2 years on your way out the March of your final year in grad school. What was the plan?
I was moving to Charlotte.
That's all you knew at that point.
I was telling my parents rent the U-Haul. It was taking me straight from Greenville, North Carolina to Charlotte, North Carolina to intern with the Carolina Panthers. And I remember that well. Like I said, I don't remember the exact dates, but I remember that well because when you start going into they do church graduations. So I had to go to the church graduations for all sides of my family. So I think I went to like 3. And all of them had me listed as going to the Carolina Panthers. So that's what I knew I was doing. It's going to take the world by storm. And a lot of my favorite quotes do come from love and basketball as well. So I was going to be the first woman commissioner in the NBA. And, you got to dream big. Dream big.
That's right. Fast forward 20 years, and they've only gone through one commissioner since then, I think. Golly.
That's a difficult field to crack into.
Yes. There's only one of that job. Okay, so you had mentioned your path earlier, so back me up. So intern with the Carolina Panthers, and you did that for how long?
Well, that's what happened. That came part of the pivot. It fell through. So I ended up, and then to add on to that pain, that same time, the Hornets had just left Charlotte. Therefore, Charlotte was not doing well. And I want to say with the Carolina Panthers also, that was a very bad season or a couple of years for them. Sponsorship dollars were down. Therefore, they had to lay a lot of people off. It was just a bad period of time. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I ended up being assistant manager at, I think it was Bally Total Fitness, and then a store manager there. And like I said, I realized the fitness facilities isn't what I want to do. It's fun. I enjoyed the personal training on the side. Therefore, I ended up at Wachovia. And the funny caveat of that is while I was sitting at Wachovia, the opening for, Charlotte Bobcats, they just started up again. And they were looking for a new security team, not show pros or anything like that. They wanted actual team security. I thought that was my way back in. So I went to the interview and I was like, he's not going to hire little old me with the light voice. So I was sitting in there, and then at the end of the interview, he went to go hire me on the spot. My thoughts was that he was going to decline me, and I was going to be like, well, could you share my resume with some of your colleagues? That never happened. So something told me, take the job and see what happens. And that was one of the best decisions I made. So I took that job, and my first assignment was over the Charlotte Sting locker room. Some people don't even remember the Charlotte Sting or know what they were. They were the WNBA team. And Muggsy Bogues was the head coach at that particular time. Yep. That was a great period of time. And then we moved on to the Charlotte Bobcats season. So I stayed in the locker room hallway Bobcats tunnel 8.5 years. And during that 8.5 year span, I would say that I only missed around 8 games in 8.5 years. And I go back to loving basketball. The reason was because you'll never let a freshman take your spot. If I hadn't been consistent and as much as I could, I would not have stayed in that locker room hallway. I would not have been able to get the experiences that I did, the people that I met. And my favorite things were when Patrick Ewing was there on game days, his ritual was coming by to give me a high five. And if I wasn't paying attention, he would literally just stand there like this. And then I would look and come give him his high five. And he's a big guy.
Gigantic.
My all-time favorite boss was Michael Jordan. And he spoke to me, talked to me every day. It was definitely, great to actually, meet him. A lot of people don't get to meet him and talk to him, but he was my boss. The funniest story is that, when the game is in session, we'll stand, we'll talk to each other and stuff like that. My friend further down the hallway said, y'all might want to do y'all job because your boss is coming. He was like, our boss? Who you talking about? And so he peeked around the corner. He was like, y'all don't stop on my account. And we were like, oh, you. And so we just started laughing, but he was just joking. But it was just great. I saw a lot of people, and I tell my students going into the sports industry, if you're going in here thinking you're going to get a lot of autographs, a lot of pictures, you're going to be starstruck, this is not the job for you. You can't be starstruck. You just act all out of sorts when the talent or the athletes are around, or they will pull you away quickly and will not ask you to come back. So therefore, I don't have a lot of pictures or anything like that, but I definitely have a lot of memories and, things that I'll cherish. One great memory is, I know y'all know Warren Sapp. I was actually Warren Sapp's escort. And he laughed at me. But I was like, nobody mess with me. I'm tough. When I tell them that, go away, they go away. But he laughed at me because, he's a big guy as well. But I had a great time. So I just say all that to say, even though that internship fell through, I feel like the better opportunity was there for me because, as I mentioned, let's say I did get that sport marketing job. I have as much reach as I do now based on the people that I met, because a lot of people that even work for the Bobcats, they're everywhere now. Got friends, San Diego Padres, San Antonio Spurs, MGM, Las Vegas, Cleveland Cavaliers, different colleges, universities. Therefore, I feel like my reach and the people that I know expanded because that internship fell through.
Yeah, excellent. And so I know you've probably seen The Last Dance. I don't know how many people watching have seen that. And
I had to. I knew it was a very long series, and I resisted it at first because I wasn't sure, how it was going to play out. But yeah, I watched all of that. And, when you're little and all that stuff is going on, you kind of remember bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. Didn't know exactly what was going on. I like that one and the Fab Five documentary.
Yes.
You should watch that. It not only shows what they went through, it shows some of the failures of these colleges and university and why we are going through what we're going through right now, whether or not to pay student athletes, and the NCAA deciding to do some of that because, what did Jalen Rose say? They had $2 in their pockets, but they would see their merchandise and stuff in the store as they walking by hungry. That's not fair.
Yeah, the big shorts, the black socks are being sold all over the place.
Rebels. Who knew that black socks could cause that much?
Right. Right. And I in that documentary, I saw some of Michael's interactions with the security around him when he was a player. I hope you didn't lose too much money to him.
No, so we didn't get to that point. But he was, I will say, because, you know, people be like, does he speak to people? He does. But you got to think about it. If you've been in the public eye for 30 plus years, you're going to have tunnel vision sometimes. But you do make the time to, you know, to speak to people, definitely people that are working for you and, you know, people that you know, and things like that. So he was very good, very sense of humor is great. He might look serious, but, you know, when he's smiling and laughing, that's his true personality. But I always say he may not remember my real name, but definitely had a great experience there. So yeah, seeing the documentary, you know, I remember all that stuff I'm going through. I was waiting to see if there was anything, you know, towards the end, but you know, it cut off, around 97. So
yeah, after
he didn't get to be a part of that, but
playing career.
employees, he's definitely very personable with employees, but no, I never got to make a wager with him. I think he's out of my league a little bit though.
Which is, but some players on the team said that, like, don't come over here. We're betting, we're making dollar bets, buddy. Get out of here. So talk to us a little bit how you go from there, and now your life is in the classroom.
Yeah, so as mentioned, I figured out the best way I could be in the sports industry is to help others get opportunities. So I always tell my students that when I send them out there to volunteer or to, you know, go to an event, they're going to see me there too. I'm out there with them volunteering, and, you know, that's for the sport management field. That's how we do. We're at a conference and we were meeting, and we said, yeah, we are a little bit different from other majors. We make sure that students are always in the field. We make sure that they're always networking. So therefore, when I applied for the job, part of my portfolio was a list of contacts and connections I had made over the years. I wanted to show the dean, like, you know, I've done the groundwork. I've met these people. You know, this isn't just, you know, blind emails or anything like that. And the reach was great because when I sent out a plug for guest speakers for Queens for this fall semester, due to the pandemic, got an overwhelming response. I didn't even have to do a second follow-up because I had more than enough. I ended up with around 20 or so guest speakers. I had to push back to the spring. The response was great, and every speaker was different, and the advice they gave was different. And as mentioned, students, let's be honest, they don't really like the live synchronous learning. They don't. They'll join if they have to. You do have your dedicated ones that'll join regardless, but all the students were there for the guest speakers each time. Even this last one, I just wanted to test the waters. I was like, yeah, we have a guest speaker from the Patrick Mahomes Foundation. You put a name out there, they're gonna come. They was like, oh, this guy knows Patrick Mahomes. So I even told the 8 a.m. class, you don't have to come, but if you wanna come, you can join. When I looked at the amount of attendees there, I was like, you know, not taking a free day, and so really proud of them. So as mentioned, whenever we get out of this, you know, pandemic era, I will be back out there volunteering with them and helping them get internships. I'm actually over the internship class at Queens. We're scrambling right now because definitely the professional leagues aren't doing internships, if any, and it's hard for them, you know, to find something right now, but we're working through it. And I love teaching all aspects of sports. I teach everything from sport analytics to sport information, which is my favorite. Sport information and sport marketing are my favorites. Governance, policy. I love teaching about governance and policies as well. And I think another thing that I enjoy is that I do the senior paper class as well. Start that one off by making sure that they tell me what they're interested in, because I want them to get it in their mind that when they do go look for these jobs and things of that nature, you're not just looking for any job. You're looking for the job that's a great fit for you and something that you're interested in. If you don't, you're going to be miserable and you're not going to give, your best. So the first thing I try to get them to do is find the positions and stuff that's right for them. Therefore, we start with their topic. What's your passion? What's your area of interest? And that gets them to start thinking about what they, really want to do after they leave and graduate. So I like doing that. And I definitely like the fact that after they graduate, you'll see them on LinkedIn. I don't have other social media accounts, but LinkedIn, I love seeing them on LinkedIn, and they love reaching back out and coming back to speak. I started at Queens part-time in 2014. I actually had 2 of my first students come back as guest speakers for this class. And they're doing great things within their field. So that's very rewarding. And I know I said this before, but if that fall through hadn't happened in 2002, would not have the same experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess maybe it ties into that, but biggest lesson you've learned throughout your career so far?
Biggest lesson is I wish I had known more about that whole sponsor thing. I didn't learn about that till later on. And I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with Karla Harris. She was the one, when I asked her, I was like, how do you know a sponsor is really speaking for you when you're not around? And then she was like, if you have to wonder if they're speaking for you, then they're really not your sponsor. And those are the things that I didn't know. I thought after I left ECU, I thought that if I, had these mentors and things in that nature, that they would look out for me. They would help me solidify opportunities, but in all actuality, they probably weren't. So I wish once that internship fell through that I probably would have kept working to find a new sponsor just on my behalf. So I think that's the biggest thing. And for those that don't really know what a sponsor is, as mentioned, let's say that they're in a meeting and something comes up, they're putting in the plug for you without you even asking them to. They know more about you than they think you do. They don't have to guess or anything like that. So I really needed that person back then. I ended up with that person. I met him, and I'll give him a shout out, Dr. Robert Lyons. Met him in 2011, and since 2011, he has been my sponsor.
Excellent. So we've asked this question on a couple of these, and I realized it might be putting people in a weird position. So if it puts you in a weird position, feel free to give me a coach's type of answer here. But what's next, career advancement wise? Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years?
Okay, so immediate goal over the Christmas break is to start up an LLC. I realize I do a lot. I'm not doing a lot underneath one umbrella. So I want to start up an LLC, and I got to figure out what it looks like where I can incorporate everything I do. Networking events. I do some graphic work. I do certifying training for American Heart Association. And I also do editing and documents review and things of that nature. Therefore, I'm like, I could develop this and, get compensated. And for me, it wouldn't be about making as much money as possible. I'd make sure that the, stuff that I do is reasonable and affordable. Definitely to my young students starting out. I look at even doctorate degrees. When I was doing mine, I tried to find an editor. He was charging me $100 an hour. And there was no way for me to verify he actually spent 4 hours on that. Therefore, I want to do stuff like that a little bit better. And I know I can. And always, I'm being asked to do this or do that. So I figure if I, had a organization and a site, I could definitely do more and have more reach. 5 years, probably still, working my way through this whole tenure thing and seeing if I want to be a department chair again and, want to move up to a dean or something like that. But I am willing to go through the steps because, that's what I tell my students. Your path will probably be bumpy, and therefore you're not going to go from A A to D quick. You probably got to go B, C first. And I'm okay with that. You know, like I said, I've been a department chair, so I'm willing to wait to see if that happens again. But I can go through the steps. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, and you and I are in the same graduation year range. One of the disconnects I've had with students now is the really ambitious ones that want to, it's not fair to call it skipping steps, but want to fast forward to stuff. And on one hand, I'm like, good for you. Just kick that door in and go for it. And then I realized that I'm old and I'm like, you got to pay your dues. Hold on now. You got to go through the steps. And it's, I guess I have to reflect on it and realize it's about readiness, not necessarily the amount of time. And so some people skilled and ready and have the experience to kind of fast forward. And sometimes it's getting that exposure, learning, getting those experiences and moving to the next step, which may not be A, B, C, D like you thought it was. So.
And that's why I always say I like the book, Who Moved My Cheese? We're the society of, you know, we want things a certain way. And sometimes we don't like change. And, you know, like I said, some of the students, you know, feel like they should give me this internship just because I emailed them. No, they have to. And when you tell them, I think someone pushed back on me when I was like, the NBA, NFL aren't looking for internships right now. So you mean none of them are? I'm like, it's okay to seek out another opportunity. You are allowed to intern somewhere more than once. You know, we don't like change. We don't like to stray away from what we thought we were supposed to be doing. And I think that's, you know, what we have to do. But hey, I'm all for it. If you're ready and they're ready to give you that opportunity, go for it. But don't jump too high and, you know, have to pick back up and go back up there. But like you said, if you're ready, go for it.
Yeah. We got a question from the registrants ahead of time. What is, given that you've got several balls up in the air at the same time juggling, what is the best way to stay active, energized, and beat procrastination?
Procrastination is always a fun topic because with procrastination is, and I'm guilty of it too. You usually don't get energized to do something until the deadline is on us. Like, it's here, let me do it now. And that can't be the way to be. It causes more stress. And as we all know, stress takes time off your life. And therefore, tell my students, set a deadline before the deadline. And I would let them know, do your work during the week, enjoy your weekends, because for far as staying active and energized, you got to have your rest. You got to have that particular balance. So take your breaks, do whatever you like to do, whether it's Netflix, reality shows, you know, get out the house, take a walk, social distancing, of course, take a drive, get fresh air. But the main key, and I know it's probably a little bit cliche, but you got to be organized. For me, someone asks, how do you do all you do? So first I show them the app on my phone. I show them my calendar, and then I show them my organizers. I noticed that none of my students actually have physical organizers. And I tell the ones that have a hard time keeping up with the notifications on their phone, I was like, each week on Sunday, you need to write all this stuff down. They're like, right? But no, you write it down. Organizers help more than you know. So I try to get them to do that. Does it always work? No, but definitely that. And to stay energized, you know, I know that students are in school and we're all working. You still got to find time for things that you love to do. And that's where that balance comes into play. And if it's not until the foreseeable future, I always tell people, give yourself some incentives or some type of reward for you achieving some of the goals that you had to get accomplished. So, for example, if this was a rough semester for professors, we know the end in sight is in December. So reward yourself or have something to look forward to in December. And, you know, if you don't achieve whatever goal you had, just got to regroup. So stay energized, got to get some rest, beat those deadlines to limit your stress, and you just got to get organized.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's one of those, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's you hate to lose more than you enjoy winning. So when you have successes, you often tend to be like, okay, done, checked off, and move to the next thing and don't celebrate it uh, long enough to kind of re-energize yourself. Meanwhile, if you don't reach those goals, we tend to dwell in it forever and ever and ever. It's I guess part of being human, but
Right.
celebrating those successes is really important to your keeping up that energy. So we are running out of time here, but I am going to hit you with some of our rapid fire questions here. First one, tell us about your favorite things to do, places to go while you were here in Greenville.
We didn't have much in Greenville. I think the most we were able to do is go to Chili's, Walmart, uh, play spades, hang out on the hill. Like after dinner, the place was hanging out at the top of the hill outside of Todd Dining Hall. And for my West Side people, we used to hang out on the stoop. We call it the stoop outside of Whitehall. Mm-hmm. There forever. So there you go with that one.
So hold on, I have to pause this for a second. I have a question about spades. So how does one, let's say a kid shows up to college, freshman in college, does not know how to play spades. How do you learn without getting laughed out of your social groups or booted out of your social, like the pressure is just too high to learn on the job.
And you know, we had spades tournaments back in the day at ECU. I would definitely, you get your feelings hurt quick if you actually sit down at a table and don't tell someone you can't play. That's the easiest way to get your feelings hurt. So my recommendation is don't sit down at the table, watch, and then secretly have a couple of friends come by and, you know, basically slowly guide you into it before you go out in public.
You know what? I'm making a note, and maybe Mary.
Scott, do I need to come next time we in Greenville? Yeah, Mary.
This isn't about me. It's not about me. Maybe a part of our student engagement plan could be like a secret learn how to play spades society to help you along.
I grew up playing spades and learning how to play big whist. Big whist is one of those Alabama things.
Yes, but it's rough when you just show up and everything's the Super Bowl. Like, how do I learn? People
take spades seriously, and that same seriousness as they take Thanksgiving dinner. You know, you can't mess up either.
Okay, let me move it along. Can you share with us a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
Never let a freshman take your spot. Loving basketball. I mean, and you can relate that to any aspect of your life. There's always someone there waiting to move in your position, take your position, and you're the only person that can give them that opportunity.
Excellent. Favorite study, experiment, or bit of research?
Right now it is ethics, because we got a lot going on where some players are getting some type of fines and other players aren't getting the same type of fines or the same type of suspensions. The consistency isn't there. And so I'm actually finishing up a study on that. Hopefully it'll be getting published soon.
There we go. How about a favorite book?
I'll go back to that Who Moved My Cheese book because it, my boss made us read it, and each week we had a meeting talking about it. And the book is very simple and easy to read. It's definitely broken down in layman's terms, but the meanings behind it, I think all bosses should probably have their employees read it.
Excellent. And how about a favorite tool that you've been using, either an app or garage tool, kitchen tool, whatever the case may be?
I would say my Ninja Foodie griddle. I probably have been neglecting my that 5-in-1. You got that one?
Yes.
Yes. I've been neglecting my stove, my oven, and you know all the other appliances because I had an air fryer, I had a griddle, I had a toaster oven. Now they're all crying and sad in the corner because you know this thing does everything. The title is Who Moved My Cheese?
Excellent. And then we'll get you out of here on this. Do you have a final word or challenge to pirates, alumni pirates, or students out there?
Yeah, and this would be for students, adult learners, or anyone looking to change their career. I would recommend getting yourself at least 3 mentors. And as I say mentors, it doesn't mean it has to be someone that you know. You can connect with someone, have a conversation with them. I just wouldn't start by sending them a message saying, be my mentor. Set up a virtual meeting with them. And then at the end of the meeting, mention it to them, but have at least 2 to 3 mentors. Then get you that one powerful sponsor, whatever organization or whatever field you want to be in, and build that relationship with them. As mentioned also, I wouldn't ask them to be your sponsor immediately, because you definitely have to have some time and rapport with them. So that your sponsor takes time. So I recommend starting now. And like I said, that can be for current students, adult learners, and those looking to change your careers.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Karla, and thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you sharing your pirate story with us, and I look forward to seeing and hearing all the continued fantastic things that you're doing out in the world. Thank you all for checking in. If you want to learn more about Queen's University of Charlotte's sports management program, the ECU Alumni Association Board. Sorry, Karla is a member of the ECU Alumni Association Board as well. Or learn more about Karla, get in touch with her via LinkedIn. We're going to put those links in the chat for you to reference. We hope you'll continue to be engaged with us both now in this time of the coronavirus and well afterwards. To learn more about the Alumni Association and what we do, go to piratealumni.com. We have a ton of virtual resources out there for you for this time or any other items of interest. The Alumni Association does function based on gifts from our donors. So if you are inclined to do so, please consider a gift to the Alumni Association commensurate with your ability to give and your passion. They are all certainly very much appreciated. And please keep an eye on our social media outlets, as we have Pirates Path events forthcoming bi-weekly for the remainder of 2020. You can join us again on December 2nd when we are joined by Alan Smith. Alan currently serves as the president and CEO of the Spartanburg Area Chamber of Commerce, now known as One Spartanburg Incorporated. This is the only organization in South Carolina in which the business, economic, and tourism development functions coexist under one umbrella. Alan credits the support of his personal and professional mentors for reaching unimagined professional heights in his career, and we look forward to hearing his story. Once again, Dr. Karla, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For being here. Until then, we'll talk soon and see you around. Go Pirates.
Go Pirates. And you see Ward Sports Medicine is back up.
I see.
Bye, y'all. Oh.